Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Reincarnation for All. I Can Amplify Everything. Chapter 81. Yes, we must intervene in the battle of gods. You have to think clearly. The upper limit of this world as we know it is the seventh order. And how strong is the god who can launch a god war? You and I don't know about this. If you participate rashly in this situation, isn't it courting death? Huang Qingyi frowned slightly, and explained, trying to correct Su Hao's already decided thoughts. Even if Su Hao said it thousands of times, she felt that she was an ant now. He doesn't even have the qualifications to be cannon fodder, and just thinks about the battle of gods, which is too big a step. If you are not careful, you will talk nonsense. But Su Hao didn't think so. With the existence of the growth of all things, it is open and hangs against the sky. He is confident that he can gain enough benefits in the battle of gods before it is about to break out. All of this must be arranged from now on in order to gain a firm foothold in the battle of gods in the future. If you believe me, then listen to me. Su Hao looked at Huang Qingyi solemnly. Hesitate. Huang Qingyi was a little worried, but under Su Hao's gaze, and a certain emotion called blood was spreading in her heart, gradually tilting the weight of the future to Su Ji's existence. At last. After all, Huang Qingyi couldn't resist the impulse in her heart, so she gritted her teeth and agreed to Su Hao's decision. Okay, I'll listen to you, I'll follow you crazy once, at worst, do it all over again. Huang Qingyi said in a deep voice. Death, for the reincarnated, is the most common thing. They have faced death countless times. Unless the true spirit is annihilated, it is absolutely impossible for them who rely on the reincarnation tower to die in the reincarnation world. Since Su Hao played so well, Huang Qingyi agreed to Su Hao. I also want to see how far I can develop with Su Hao this time. Okay, then I'll tell you about my layout. Su Hao laughed and said immediately. Therefore, Huang Qingyi also leaned forward and started talking with Su Hao. Want to see how Su Hao arranges everything next? How to intervene in the future battle of gods? You mean, you want the two of us to pretend to be evil gods? Huang Qingyi covered her red lips lightly, never expecting Su Hao's decision. And she even felt that Su Hao's decision was amazing. In Saint Laurent continent, there is no shortage of evil gods. I don't know when an evil god will suddenly appear, and then spread the faith in the Saint Laurent continent and gather believers. Although they are rejected by the Orthodox gods and believers of the Orthodox Church, there is no doubt that the strength of the evil gods is not much worse than the Orthodox gods, and some of the followers of the evil gods are even larger than the Orthodox gods. In this case, pretending to be an evil god at the same time. Not only can he gather his own forces, but he can also cover up his actions invisibly. Even if Su Hao and Huang Qingyi were weak, they would not be noticed at all by diverting the eyes of the evil gods and righteous gods, but this also reduced the threat to a certain extent. Huang Qingyi looked at Su Hao with some admiration. She really wanted to know how Su Hao, who looked no older than herself, came up with this idea, and what was in his head. At the same time, Huang Qingyi also raised a question, saying, we may be able to pretend to be evil gods, but how will you respond to the prayers of believers, and show miracles to confirm our identity as gods? You have to think clearly, this is the biggest problem hindering our progress. I will prepare for the method of revealing miracles. Help me find a few copies of the gods' prayers from various churches and churches of evil gods. I will solve the problems you mentioned when the time comes. Su Hao murmured, and shared his thoughts with Huang Qingyi. What Huang Qingyi said was indeed true. He wants to pretend to be an evil god. Facing several difficult problems. How to show miracles and make believers think that he is a god, an omnipotent god. And how to respond to the prayers of the believers and give the believers a response. These are among the troubles that hinder his plan from proceeding. As long as it is resolved, then in terms of the pattern of creatures in this world, there are almost 9 out of 10 people who will believe that an ancient, indescribable god has appeared in Saint Laurent continent without knowing it. At that time, there will be many human beliefs that try to take shortcuts. And here, it is to grasp the trend of people's hearts. Why do people believe in God? It is because God can help people accomplish what they cannot. In the eyes of mortals, God seems to be omnipotent, and it will naturally make profit-seeking hearts believe in, desire, and desire. Okay, Then I'll go back and find these for you. Huang Qingyi nodded, got up and was about to leave. Su Hao looked at Huang Qingyi's figure. He opened his mouth and said, your practice has to catch up. I don't want to bring a drag bottle. Don't worry, I'm still afraid that you will become an oil bottle. Huang Qingyi stopped for a moment, chuckled, raised the hem of her skirt with both hands, gracefully pushed open the door of the study, and left Su Hao's sight. What kind of god name should I think of? After Huang Qingyi left, Su Hao fell into deep thought. Since he was going to be an evil god, he naturally had to have some proper titles. And he still pretends to be an evil god together with Huang Qingyi, so in terms of style, he can't seem to be dragged down. Therefore, this aspect should also be well thought out. Thinking about it, Su Hao got up, went to the desk in the study and sat down. Picking up the quill on the desk, picking up a piece of yellowed paper, and began to draw on it. A moment. The titles of the two gods are already on the paper. Into 2 lines. First row. The true creator. Honorable name. Hidden above the eternal spiritual world, weaves the fate of all people with his hands, teases history, and weaves the true and false creator. Second line. Abyss Demon Queen. Honorable name. Eye of the Abyss, destination of death, source of fall, queen of calamity. 2 god names full of evil nature, and the corresponding venerable names used for Denuohao prayer calls, are also written in Su Hao's pen. If this is placed in the online novels of the previous life, perhaps it is also the evil god of the big book. The next step is to wait for news from Huang Qingyi and think about how to arrange the manifestation of the miracle. Then, it is to improve the cultivation base. Otherwise, after planning so much, in the end, it will be nothing but nothing. Su Hao crossed his fingers and pressed against his chin, thinking on the desk. He arranged to use a large size to pretend to be an evil god, but his own strength couldn't keep up. Before that, it was said that it was going to intervene in the battle of gods, but it could only be talk on paper, and it would not have the slightest effect at all. Then, in the future time, Su Hao all practiced at the Marquis of Horns. Fight against the great knights in the Marquis Mansion and master the power of your own knights. At the same time, people are also looking for extraordinary people in the mage profession to guide him on how to practice the mage profession. Chapter 82. Catch it, Kate. In the mansion of the Marquis of Horns, on the empty garden ground, Su Hao is holding a wide and heavy knight sword in his hand. The power of the seeds of life pours into his whole body, and his body is slightly arched like a bow, as if a sharp sword is about to be taken off the string. I see. Su Hao kicked her legs hard. The whole person suddenly soared 10 feet high, as if turning into a black spot, covering the sun behind him. The knight's sword in his hand, like a meteorite falling from the sky, suddenly fell down. At the moment of falling into the air, bursts of flame-like red light appeared from friction, as if the entire void was taken over by Su Ji's 10 swords at that moment. Below, a middle-aged man with a rough face, a solid body, wearing knight armor, and a silver suit is waiting for the battle. Su Hao, who was looking at the sky, couldn't help but look solemn. When he was about to block the huge sword weighing more than 2,200 caddies in his hand, it seemed that he wanted to use this horizontal sword to block and resist the attack from Su Hao. Bang! The crisp metallic sound collided together. The 2 giant swords collided in the air, striking dazzling sparks, and the scorching breath attacked the middle-aged knight like a heat wave. That moment, middle age seems to have endured some kind of overwhelming force. A pair of powerful thighs could not help but slightly bend 240, and they were deeply embedded in the ground, missing the ankles. Master, you won. The middle-aged man blushed, and his brain seemed to be congested and short-circuited. He could not hold the giant sword in his hand, and his hands were even trembling. Terrible power. Good. Su Hao chuckled. Immediately, his figure was as light as a flying swallow, and he easily drew back the épée with one leap forward, and looked at the middle-aged knight. How about it? Very strong. But within a month, you have been able to contend with me. Even if I didn't reveal my trump card with the sword just now, I would only die under your sword. Feet, said with a wry smile. A month. It's only been a month. Su Hao has been practicing chivalry since being called by the Marquis of Horns to accompany Su Hao in front of him. Every day, Kate can meet the new Su Hao. Every day. Su Hao seems to have endless strength and is improving every moment. That speed. Kate was startled. What kind of monster is this? Master, I think your strength should have reached the 3rd star level. Kate asked curiously. A month ago, Su Hao is already at the 1st myth level. When he came to accompany Su Hao for a few days, Su Hao had already become a 2nd-tier silver class. A month passed. Su Hao's strength has directly surpassed the 1st level. Came to the 3rd order star Yao level. This monstrous cultivation speed, in Kate's knowledge, only the elves, the Naga, and the ancient magic races known as high-ranking magic races. He didn't expect that his master's youngest son, Lincoln Horns, would have a cultivation speed comparable to that of a high-ranking magic race. I just don't know what kind of talent Su Hao has in mage. But at this point, Kate doesn't have too much hope, because Su Hao's talent in night cultivation is already amazing enough. I believe that God loves Su Hao, and will not give Su Hao too strong talent in mage cultivation. Well, I'm already at the 3rd star level, and I think I should be able to step into the 3rd legendary level soon. Su Hao took the towel handed over by the maid next to him, wiped the sweat off his body, and gulped water. Your talent is truly enviable, Kate said admiringly. If he also had Su Hao's talent, he might have become a famous paladin in the Saint Laurent continent by now. His legend will be sung everywhere. Thinking of that scene, Kate's silent and decayed heart couldn't help but a little bit of blood rose. It's a pity that he has already passed that best era, and he doesn't have such a heaven-defying and enviable talent like Su Hao. He sighed deeply. Kate clenched her fist with her right hand, pressed it against her left chest, and said, Kate is no longer suitable for continuing to practice ACCC with you in the next class, and tomorrow I will ask Lord Marquis to recommend a stronger knight for you to guide you practice. Is that so? Hear Kate's words. A sense of disappointment rose in Su Hao's heart. After all, he was too strong. It made Kate, a 3rd-tier legendary knight commander, feel pressured. In a month, he couldn't keep up with his training rhythm. After the training is over, Su Di, take Commander Kate to the treasurer to get a reward of 500 pounds of gold coins. This will be my thank you to teacher Kate. Su Hao looked at Su Di, the maid beside him, and then at Kate, and said as he ordered. Kate thanks Master Lincoln. Hearing Su Hao's words, Kate lowered her head even more, while kneeling in front of Su Hao on one knee. He said in a deep and serious voice, I am willing to follow Master Lincoln, to be your knight, to fight for you, to forge ahead, and please let me follow you. Talking. Kate closed her eyes, waiting for Su Hao's response. 500 pounds. This is undoubtedly a huge sum of money for the 3rd order legendary Kate. With proper use, he might be able to use the 500 pounds of gold coins given by Su Hao to advance towards the 3rd-tier mythical level at the 3rd-tier legendary level. As for Tier 4, for Kate, that was unimaginable. The 3rd order mythical level is already the pinnacle of Kate's pursuit. Even if you give up becoming a 3rd-tier mythical class, the wealth of 500 pounds is enough to buy a Viscount title with a good fiefdom in the Kingdom of Intis, or leave it to your children and grandchildren, and become their next generation's cultivation resources. No matter how to deal with this huge sum of money, it will be of great use to Kate. Therefore, he is willing to become Su Hao's follower. In other words, when Su Hao didn't give the 500 pounds of gold coins, Kate already wanted to follow Su Hao. And the 500 pounds was the last straw that broke the camel's back, completely eliminating the hesitation in his heart. Okay, Kate Knight is willing to follow me Lincoln Horns, I will naturally not refuse. Su Hao smiled. From today, Kate Knight is my follower. Kate Lanster has seen the master. Kate said solemnly. In Saint Laurent continent, following knights is not complicated, and there is no need to sign a contract. Because the code of knighthood has been passed down in the Saint Laurent continent for an unknown period of time, and it has already been deeply embedded in the soul of knights. Once they surrender and follow from the heart, then, he will definitely abide by the knight's code and follow Su Hao's side. Get up, my knight commander Kate. Su Hao smiled lightly. Yes, my master. Kate responded, followed Su Hao's instructions, and stood up. At the same time, a carriage belonging to the residence of the Marquis of Midi stopped outside the residence of the Marquis of Horns. A beautiful figure got off the carriage with the help of a servant. Chapter 83. Miss, we have arrived at the residence of the Marquis of Horns. With the help of the servant, Huang Qingyi got off the carriage, and her eyes fell on the outside of the Marquis of Horns' mansion. She listened to the words of the maid beside her, but did not respond. He gently lifted the hem of the skirt with both hands, and walked towards the residence of the Marquis of Horns. A month's time. Huang Qingyi has already obtained a lot of magic arts related to the God's prayer from the Orthodox Church or the Evil God Church through various relationships. Each of the God's prayers has the same function, which is to pray to the gods, get the response and blessing of the gods and so on. Now, Huang Qingyi also wants to see how Su Hao will come up with a solution. And in this month, Huang Qingyi is also improving her practice. She is practicing the mage profession, and it just so happens that the Midi Marquis mansion behind her is famous for the extraordinary powerhouse of the mage profession. It is different from the Marquis of Horns, who is a professional knight extraordinary. It is purely a crispy output, and it is slightly insufficient in defense, but as a reincarnator, Huang Qingyi has made corresponding measures for his own defense, and at the same time minored in the knight profession to improve his frankness to a certain extent. Soon, Huang Qingyi, led by the servants of the Marquis of Horns, saw Su Hao, who was talking to the knight Kate. Su Hao, who was talking to Kate, also saw Huang Qingyi approaching. He lowered his head slightly, looked at Kate and ordered, "You go down first, I still have something to talk to Miss Morella." "Yes, my master." Kate put her right fist on her heart, bowed her waist, and then left with the knight's sword. When passing by Huang Qingyi, he also performed the knight etiquette. To show respect for Huang Qingyi's identity. "Come with me." Su Hao looked at Huang Qingyi and walked ahead. See. Huang Qingyi gave instructions to the servants who followed behind. Quickly followed Su Hao's pace. The two walked side by side, silent all the way. All the way to the study room where the previous meeting was held. "I got everything you asked for." Entering the study, Huang Qingyi sat in one place and said, "Have you figured out how to pretend to be an evil god?" "I've already thought about it. What is lacking is your spirit prayer." Su Hao sat down and spoke lightly. At the same time, he took out a document that had been written long ago from the desk and handed it to Huang Qingyi. "Let's take a look. Here are my detailed instructions on how to pretend to be an evil god and promote believers." Huang Qingyi responded, took the document handed over by Su Hao, and read it carefully. Under her reading 10 lines at a glance. The document, which was about 5 centimeters thick, was read in a blink of an eye. She closed the document, and said, "The arrangement you made was indeed very detailed, and everything was done perfectly, but is the name of God an honorable name too ostentatious? True Creator. The honorable name, hidden above the eternal spiritual world, weaves the fate of all people with his hands, teases history, and weaves the true and false Creator. Queen of the Abyss. Honorable name, Eye of the Abyss, destination of death, source of fall, Queen of Calamity." These two titles seem to belong to high-level gods. If they are placed in a diverse world-class reincarnation world, they also belong to the absolute top level, and their strength is even more unimaginable. Maybe it's just like the description in the honorable name. One controls destiny, truth and falsehood, and has the ability to create things. One controls the abyss, death, and tempts angels to fall, symbolizing the coming of natural disasters. They are all terrifying existences. In this regard, Su Hao smiled lightly and said, "If you are not pretending enough, who will believe you? Since we want to pretend to be evil gods, we must not be poor in quality. If time is long enough, maybe we can slowly cultivate believers, but time does not allow it now. According to my understanding of the history of Saint Laurent continent, the next outbreak of God's war is estimated to be in the interval of 5,000 to 10,000 years. There is not much time left for us. And, do you think we can live as long as the gods?" "Okay, that's what you said, I'll listen to you." Huang Qingyi nodded helplessly. She didn't know where to criticize Su Hao's words. As he said that, a ray of light flashed in Huang Qingyi's hand. There are a dozen or so books, which look simple and unclumsy, with a faint divinity in them. These are all the spirit prayer techniques I collected. They all come from the Church of the Spirit of Nature, the Church of Ocean Storm, the Church of God of War, the Church of Blood Moon, the Church of Blood Rose Redemption, etc. 0. Ask for flowers. I think that should be enough for you. As Huang Qingyi said, she pushed the tall pile of God prayers to Su Hao's eyes. Huang Qingyi secretly collected these dozen or so books of God's prayer technique with the help of the Marquis of Midas family, whether it is the Orthodox Church or the Evil God Church, they all have them. They are all original rubbings from various churches of the gods. There is the existence of the breath of the gods. Very well, I received it. Su Hao's 5 fingers swept across the top of a dozen books of prayers to the gods, and the ring on his index finger flashed a faint light. These dozen or so books of prayer to the gods have already been collected by him in his storage space. Tomorrow, you come to the Marquis of Horn's mansion again, and then you can start pretending to be an evil god, promote your beliefs, and develop believers. Su Shen said so. Okay. Huang Qingyi nodded. Also, what is your strength now? Su Hao asked curiously. Huang Qingyi practiced as a mage, and he knew that. But Su Hao is still a little curious about Huang Qingyi's current practice. I want to see what kind of strength this daughter of the Lord of the Eternal Shrine has in the reincarnation world. 3rd rank silver, you will be able to break through Xingyao soon. Hearing about her cultivation, Huang Qingyi proudly raised her head. 1 month. Reincarnated into this world for a month. From an ordinary person with no cultivation, she has become a genius beyond the reach of ordinary people in a short period of time. The 3rd tier silver level is about to break through the strength of the star level. If word spreads, many extraordinary schools on the San Laurent continent will swarm over, vying for Huang Qingyi to enter the school and give them key training. Well, it's not bad, come on. Knowing Huang Qingyi's cultivation level, Su Hao nodded his head clearly, which was far from what he had guessed in his heart, but at the same time, he was also dissatisfied with his own cultivation, and felt that it was still too slow. He is driving a plug-in. In the case of cheating, he was about to be caught up by Huang Qingyi. This is not acceptable. Just a few seconds. Su Hao has already set strict standards for his practice. In the next month, break through to the 5th order and Chapter 84. Are you going to be a Tier 3 legend soon? Your cultivation speed is much faster than mine. Huang Qingyi spoke in surprise. Also reincarnated in 1 day. It is also in the same world, and Su Hao is still a knight, a profession that is famous for its tankiness and difficult to cultivate. Su Hao actually walked in front of her. If Su Hao practiced as a mage profession, wouldn't it be faster? A mage with all attributes is almost the nemesis of all mages. Moreover, the source of magic that can be opened up is definitely more than twice that of the same level or even 1 level higher, so you don't have to worry about your own magic consumption when facing the enemy. Are you going to practice the mage profession? Huang Qingyi asked. The talent affinity of all attribute elements. As long as Su Hao cultivates, he is on the path of becoming a full-time Dharma god. 710. That kind of explosive power, coupled with Su Hao's equally powerful knight profession, the coexistence of defensive power and explosive power, how many people can compete? It's natural to practice, Su Hao said without the slightest hesitation. In the early stage of the knight profession, physical damage is the main thing, and the use of super physical attacks is only involved in the later stage, so it is impossible for me to give up the cultivation of the mage profession. Knight and mage, 2 professions. All have different emphases. Knights are divided into paladins, martial knights, dark knights, etc., each of which has a different focus. The same is true for the mage profession, and even because of the multi-elemental elements, there are countless different cultivation schools that have evolved. For example, mage professionals with elements of the thunder system include thunder, punishment, and god Yilian. Water type, wood type, and light type elemental mage professionals also have healing and defense. But when it comes to defensive ability, the strongest is still the knight professional. The main ability of a mage professional is mostly in terms of output, and his own strength is fragile. Once a knight crosses the line of defense, it is easy to be beheaded by a powerful knight. This is a fatal point for mage professionals. But for Su Hao, it doesn't exist. He is both a knight and a mage. Moreover, in the case of the growth of all things, his knight and mage professions may undergo more changes. So, no matter what, Su Hao will not give up the 2 professional practitioners. I think you can practice these mage schools first. Huang Qingyi glanced at Su Hao, and several books appeared in her hand again. She put them in front of Su Hao, and said, "This is what I can find for you. You can take a look at the cultivation method of high-level mages. Anyway, you are also compatible with all attributes, so there is no need to worry about not being able to practice other element attribute cultivation methods." Thanks then, I'm worried about finding some suitable mage practice methods. Su Hao said with a thank you. The few mage cultivation methods that Huang Qingyi gave him contained the elements of the thunder element that Huang Qingyi could cultivate, as well as the elements of light, fire, wind, and darkness. A total of 5 elements of cultivation methods. Now, Huang Qingyi directly sent him a few valuable cultivation methods. After a systematic increase, it can definitely reach the pinnacle of this world. It was really sending pillows while drowsy, which solved Su Hao's urgent needs. In terms of the cultivation method of collecting mage professions, the ability of the Marquis of Horn's family is not as good as that of the Marquis of Midas family. But in terms of knight training, the Marquis of Midas family is also inferior to the Marquis of Horn's family. The two Marquis families of the Intis Kingdom have different emphasis on cultivation. Thank me for what you are doing, we are teammates. Huang Qingyi gave Su Hao a blank look, and then said, "Let me tell you about the cultivation of mages." Good. Hearing Huang Qingyi's words, Su Hao didn't refuse either. As Huang Qingyi said, the two of them are teammates. Since they are teammates, there will naturally be no politeness between the two of them. Actually, the cultivation of a mage is somewhat similar to that of a knight. Huang Qingyi explained. Knights pay attention to the development of the potential power of the body. Meditating on the seeds of life in the body is not only the source of power for the knights, but also the fire of life for the knights. The strength and growth of the seeds of life proves the strength of the knights. Conversely, the same is true for the cultivation of professional mages. However, the power of a mage is not the seed of life at all, but the source of magic. It is also meditation, but the difference between meditation lies in the affinity of the elements. I don't think you will have any problems with this. Speaking of this, Huang Qingyi looked at Su Hao with some envy. All attribute talent affinity is 0. Still 10 stars. As long as Su Hao hooks his fingers, the various elements flowing in the heaven and earth will be like a tengu, showing love to Su Hao crazily. There is no need for Su Hao's temptation, meditation, and persuasion. This is the fundamental gap in talent. Even for the thunder elements with 7-star affinity, Huang Qingyi spent a little effort to gather her own source of magic. Just thinking about it makes me jealous. Why doesn't he have 10 stars in talent? Waiting for Huang Qingyi's excessive imagination. Su Hao had already comprehended the details of what Huang Qingyi said. At the same time, he also flipped through the elemental cultivation method in front of him, and made his own understanding according to the hints in it and Huang Qingyi's explanation. 2 reincarnation experiences. Practice twice. Su Hao has his own perception and experience of cultivation. Under Huang Qingyi's explanation, he easily grasped all the knowledge points and cultivation points in the book, and mastered everything with ease. It's getting late, I'm going back first. Huang Qingyi stood up, looked at the sky outside. The blue sky had already started to turn yellow, and the golden sun had already set in the west, turning the sky into a fiery red. And she has also chatted with Su Hao until now. He and Su Hao analyzed the practice rules of Saint Laurent continent, and made some reforms. Experience of multiple reincarnations, practice in different worlds. 4.7 is enough to qualify them to modify the existing system, especially Huang Qingyi. He even put forward his own ideas many times to solve Su Hao's troubles. Okay, remember to come here tomorrow. Don't worry, I won't forget. Huang Qingyi smiled sweetly. And this smile. Su Hao was a little dazed. It was as if he was captivated by Huang Qingyi's smile, and he never recalled it for a long time. Wait until he comes back to God. Huang Qingyi had already left the study and disappeared before her eyes. What a stunner. After Su Hao murmured, his gaze fell on the 5 books on cultivation of elements in front of him. Increase. For the 5 cultivation methods in front of him, he wants to use the All Things amplification system to wake up the amplification once. Ding, is it consuming 20 years of life to use the boost of all things on the target? Chapter 85. Ding. Do you want to consume 20 years of life to use the boost of all things on the target? Ding. Trigger a 90-fold increase, and the increase of the Thunder cultivation method is the Thunder Master cultivation method. Ding. Do you want to consume 20 years of life to use the boost of all things on the target? Ding. Trigger an 80-fold increase, and the increase of the Flame cultivation method is the Flame Master cultivation method. Ding. Is it consuming 20 years of life to use all things to increase the target? Ding. Trigger a 90-fold increase, and the Shadow cultivation method will be amplified as the Abyss Master cultivation method. Several voices rang in Su Hao's ears one after another. With the increase of his choice, the 500-year lifespan that he broke through to the third-level star level, subtracted 100 years in an instant. Currently, he has 485 years left in his lifespan. It is almost enough for Su Hao's next use. With the increase of the growth of all things, the 5 elemental cultivation methods that Huang Qingyi prepared for him have all been enhanced. At present, they are respectively the cultivation method of Thunder Mastery that symbolizes the element of thunder, the cultivation method of Flame Mastery that symbolizes the element of fire, the cultivation method of Mastery of Abyss that symbolizes the element of darkness, the cultivation method of Mastery of Light that symbolizes the element of light, and the cultivation method that symbolizes the element of wind. Dominate Practice O2 method. Each of the cultivation methods after the amplification clearly points to the cultivation methods after the 7th level. Not only has there been a huge increase in power, but the way forward in cultivation has also been clearly pointed out by Su Hao. In the Saint Laurent continent, the 7th stage is a watershed stage. Above the 7th rank, there are 5 levels of mage professions: Sanctuary, Angel, Demigod, True God, Main God, and Supreme God. Start with the angel above the sanctuary. It has already touched the scope of the gods of this world. According to Su Hao's estimation, the righteous gods in Saint Laurent continent, as well as the powerful groups of evil gods, should be at the stage of true gods to main gods, and those who are weaker are demigods, who have already deified their bodies. It can be regarded as an envoy walking in the world, holding the authority of some gods. Practice the Abyss Master cultivation method first. Su Hao glanced at the 5 brand new cultivation methods, and set his sights on the Abyss Master cultivation method that circulates the dark element aura. Picking up the Abyss Master practice method, Su Hao began to practice. Abyss Master practice method. It also symbolizes the real name of a deity. But, again, this is a vacant god position. If Su Hao can cultivate to the stage of true god, then he can justifiably occupy the god name of the Abyss Master and become the Abyss Master. The same is true for the rest of the elemental cultivation methods. This made Su Hao curious. I wonder if these cultivation methods with dominance are the direction of amplification specially prepared for him by the All Things amplification system. Finally, advance towards the God position of the purpose of the elements. Assuming that Su Hao can really cultivate all attributes above the true God and become the master of the elements, then the master of the elements, in his conception, may involve the realm of the supreme God. True God is already in existence that can harvest faith. And the main God already has the qualifications to open up a God system. Such is what is similar to the pantheon of the gods of Mount Olympus, and also like the pantheon of Nordic mythology. And the supreme God is the king of these gods, ruling the main God. Soon, Su Hao had finished watching the Abyss Master training method, and began to gather his own source of magic. Just in the moment of entering meditation, with the full 10-star blessing of all attribute talents, the dark element seems to be summoned by Su Hao, who is the master of elements, and frantically surrounds Su Hao, driving away other elemental attributes that want to get closer, and occupying Su Hao. Good body. In Su Hao's body, a source of magic appeared like a cyclone, but condensed like a liquid. It seems to be full of the power of all degenerate aspects, and it is, crazily spreading, under Su Hao's condensed source of dark attribute magic. At that moment, Su Hao's body seemed to be gloomy a lot, adding a bit of invisible majesty. With the completion of the Abyss Master practice method, Su Hao then succeeded in practicing the remaining 4 elements mastering cultivation methods. In the body, purple, fiery red, invisible, bright, and pitch black, 5 sources of magic in different colors rotate in the direction of a pentagram. The 5 elemental powers of wind and thunder, Fire, light, and darkness also seemed to be quietly drawn by the source of magic and integrated into Su Hao's body. Growth expands Su Hao's source of magic. Looking at the 5 different sources of magic, Su Hao's eyes fell to the side, and he had a whim on the life seeds full of vitality and surging power. What if he nourishes the seed of life with the source of magic? Su Hao didn't know the result. However, there were also people on Saint Laurent continent who had the same idea as Su Li. But everyone who tried this way died under the fusion of the life seed and the source of magic. Because of the resistance and unobservability of the elements, no one can use the source of magic to nourish the seeds of life. Even if the elements have a specific form under the shape of the source of magic, they are naturally repulsive to the seeds of life that are germinating like seeds. Just like a virus, once integrated, it will prompt the seeds of life to fight against the source of magic, resulting in riots. As a result, those who tried this way on Saint Laurent continent fell to death. Perhaps, my full attribute day 713 can avoid this. 17. Su Hao thought so. The more he thought about it, the more eager he was to try. Walking the road that others have not gone before can often have unexpected effects and even gains. With the help of the amplification of everything, Su Hao is even more unwilling to do so. He has always had the idea of integrating and unifying the various cultivation systems of the heavens, so naturally he will not give up such an attempt. And Su Hao did exactly what he thought. I saw that the seed of life, driven by Su Hao's power, walked to the center of the 5 magic sources like a pair of invisible legs. At the same time, 5 sources of magic with different attributes rioted wildly at the moment when the life seeds appeared. As if the earthquake caused a tsunami, looking at the source of magic like an ocean, it set off a raging wave, and the terrifying impact washed away the seeds of life. The pure, berserk magic element, at that moment, turned into thousands of troops, conquering the life seeds in the middle. Fighting war. It happened without a sound. I didn't expect that there would be such a rejection of life seeds. Su Hao looked at it with a pale face. The moment when the seed of life is washed by the source of magic. Su Hao could feel that his 3rd-tier star-level night strength was being gradually suppressed by 5 sources of magic with different attributes. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.